Are you looking to buy a home, but you're being told you've got to sign some paperwork before you can go out and see some homes? Dave Z with eXp Realty, owner of the Dave Z Home Team. I've been selling real estate in Arizona for a little over 20 years. We've helped about 1,500 families. And as of August 1 in Arizona, the rules have changed. You can't go see a property without getting a signed agreement. And that's causing some frustration, some friction, some people that we're talking to. So I want to make sure if that's you, I shoot this video so you can understand what's going on. So how did we get here? Let's start with that. Well, there's been lawsuits brewing with some big attorneys. So once I saw this, I actually made some big changes in my business in 2022. Because once I saw the law firms involved and some of the cases they settled, we're like, okay, this is going to happen. At least that's what I thought. Well, flash forward today, we have what's called the Sitzer-Burnett, or the Morrill versus the NAR, National Association of Realtors. Those suits were settled in October of 23, April of 24. They merged together, and it was a multi-billion-dollar lawsuit. Basically, sellers said, why are we paying for buyers' realtors when they work for the buyer? So now we have what's called the decoupling of commissions. And we're no longer calling them commissions. It's going to be compensation. So there's been some big changes here as of August 1st. We need paperwork to get into houses. Now I'm filming this mid-August. Before, for the last 100 years, anybody could go open up a door and say, hey, let's go see that and let's decide if we want to work together. Well, now we got to reverse it. Let's decide if we want to work together and then let's go see houses. That's your biggest takeaway. But if someone's telling you, you got to come up with a fee right away, I'm telling you that that's not fully true. It is, but it isn't. So I'm going to walk you through some documents here that we work with on our team and give you some options. So first and foremost, do some research. What did the Department of Justice say? What did the National Association of Realtors say? What is it specific to your state? If you're watching this and you live in a different state, each state has different rules. So I'm going to focus on the National Association of Realtors and the ARMLS, Arizona Regional Multiple Listing Service. So that's where I'm bound here. We practice in Arizona. We've been doing this for 20 years. Like I said, we've sold about $500 million of real estate. This is the biggest shakeup I've ever seen in my career. But not much is changing at the end of it. It is, but it isn't. It's just how it's being done is changing. But we see so far the first 17 days, very little change. The sellers we're meeting with still want to compensate buyers, realtors, because they don't want their homes to sit. The buyers that we're working with, we're still getting the sellers to pay the compensation. It's just how we go about it is different. So step one, let's take a look at this form here. This one is called the touring agreement. This one we are using with a lot of our folks that we just don't know. We've got a lot of homes listed for sale. We work with a lot of big companies like Zillow and Realtor.com. And when someone clicks a button and says, I want to go see that, a lot of those are funneled into me and my staff. We say, hey, nice to meet you. When do you want to go see this property? We got to get something in writing before we go out there. We don't know these people. They don't know us. How can we determine let's work together for a specific fee? We can't do that just yet. So that's the form we're seeing with people we haven't met yet. They don't know and like us and trust us just yet. So that's this form here on the screen, the touring agreement. We can use that. That is get you into the door. But when you start asking questions, what's the property worth? What's the HOA? What do we do here? How much do you think we can offer? We now have to get a different form in place that says we're actually going to represent you in real estate. This is the fee that we're all going to agree upon. This is how we're going to get it paid. So let's go on to that second form. We now have a single property buyer broker agreement. This says we are working together exclusively just on one property. So if I show you a property or my staff does and we like that home, what do I get paid? Who's responsible for paying it? That's this one. Let's call that like our second date form. The touring agreement, that's like a first date. Now we have a second date. Once you say, Dave, gosh, your team demonstrates that you're the people for us. You save people a lot of money when you buy houses. We want to work with you on no matter what home we find. Well, now we're going to switch to this form. That is the buyer broker agreement for any home that we help you find. That's the progression we typically see. If you're a past client, I have about 1,500 past clients. You say, Dave, we want you to represent us again. We typically go for the buyer broker agreement. If we're just getting to know each other, let's open the door. Beyond that, it's really just opening the door. Keep in mind, you could always go to the listing agent. I don't show them on mine, and I actually work with other realtors that don't want to show theirs. They're like, I don't want to run out open doors all day long for people that aren't going to work with me. So we do that for a lot of other listing agents in town, and they do it for us. That way we have clear representation. If somebody wants to come look at ours, they have to hire someone because we don't want to run out there as a listing agent, but you can still do that. You can say, hey, listing agent, would you please open the door for me? You're on their schedule, and they're representing the seller. You can have them represent you as well. So this form here, this is our listing agreement that we signed with the seller. I want you to notice this part here. It says unrepresented buyer. Here's what I want to tell you. People are calling me and saying, I want you to come open the door because I don't want to pay a realtor. Well, I've already gotten this fee established with my sellers. Every one of my sellers is paying me a good percentage of the sale to represent a buyer who calls me. That's why we go out there, we open the door, we write the contract, we'll attend the home inspections, but our fiduciary still really lies with the seller. We're still trying to give them the best deal. So buyers, don't be fooled that if you call the listing agent, oh, I'm saving money. Most of my friends, people I work with, agents I coach, I've got over 100 agents that work with me directly. Everybody is getting their sellers to compensate them for an unrepresented buyer. Nobody works for free. You want us to go out there, this is the fee. So keep that in mind. Call the seller. They have to have this filled out. How much are you paying me to work with somebody who calls me? So those are the forms. Now we have this form here for builders. If we take you out to a builder, we call the builder, are you paying us? This form is we can go direct to the seller and say, listen, I've got a buyer. I think that might be great for you. If you agree to pay me, then I'll bring the buyer out. So a lot of these have mechanisms in place to get the seller to pay that compensation. So really not much has changed. The biggest change you have to remember, you've got to get something signed before you show a house. So on the screen here, this is the penalty. The first time a realtor who is licensed as a realtor, not just an agent, there's a big difference between a licensed realtor, either through NAR, which is the National Association of Realtors. We are bound by code of ethics, a higher level of trust and care. If we are part of NAR, we've got to get this signed. If you just have a license, you're what's called a licensee, there's different rules for that. So I'm only speaking to our rules. You've got to have something signed before you go out there. Again, it's $500 the first time we're caught. The second time a realtor is caught, it's between $5,000 and $15,000, and you are suspended from the MLS, the multiple listing service. That's how we work. Can't look at a house. We can't tour properties. We can't open doors. We're basically fined and suspended for 30 days up to a year. So the second time a realtor violates this rule of showing a property without a form, $5,000 to $15,000, 30 days to a year. It's a big, big deal. So I want you to understand, when a realtor says, I got to get this signed, that's why we're never going to get fined. We're not going to do this. We will never open a door without something signed. So it really matters who you sign with. I want to show you the average stats for a licensed realtor. You can Google average realtor stats, National Association of Realtors, and here's what we find. Most people are very surprised when I walk them through this because you've got, Selling Sunset or, big famous realtors that are on these celebrity shows. Let me tell you, after doing this for 20 years, coaching hundreds of agents, most agents are lucky to pay their bills. It's an unfortunate reality. Attorneys think we get paid too much, so they took 33% of the settlement because they felt like 3% was too much. And then buyers sometimes ask for it, and this is something we battle. Look at the screen, guys. The average realtor in 2023 grossed $55,800. That's before expenses. That was in 23. In 22, it's $56,400. So it actually came down a little bit. Your average realtor sells 10 homes a year. They're getting about a paycheck a month. And after it all shakes out, it's about $5,000 a paycheck. And they have other fees to run their business to be part of that. Their dues, their subscriptions, their E&O, that's errors and omissions, broker fees, all the software, the dues to the MLS board. It's thousands and thousands of dollars. So your average realtor is not making what the consumer thinks. And now that they're getting pinched a little bit, it's going to be even harder. Look for a realtor that sells more than 35, 40 homes a year. There's about 1% of realtors that sell more than 35 homes. This is their full-time job. You're going to get a high level of care. So look for that. But these are very shocking statistics for most people. I say, the average realtor is only selling 10. That's nationwide. In Arizona, it's about 7. We have 55,000 realtors trying to sell 75,000 houses a year. There's just too many people. So this is going to be a good thing, I think, for buyers to start to say, hey, show me your statistics. Am I better off with you or another realtor? Am I better off with you or by myself? Because if they're only doing this 2-3 times a year, you might be better off by yourself or going with a more experienced realtor. Here, we're going to offer you different packages. We've got a very kind of like, hey, let's just open the door on our listings package. We got a junior agent package, somebody who hasn't sold as many homes as I have. And then if you want to work with me, this is what my fee is. So contact us. We'll walk you through what those packages are. We're flexible, but just know you're going to have to agree upon something before you get started. And I think it's going to be really good to start hiring a professional instead of just who can open the door. So if you're ready to get started with us, send me a message. You can reply on YouTube here or wherever you're seeing this video. Reach out to us. We've got over 1,600 agents in the Valley that contract with us to open doors. So one of the benefits of working with me is you get showing 7 days a week whenever you want to go with our 1,600 agents that work with me. And then you've got 20 years of experience when I negotiate, How do we get this price lower? How do we get the repairs done by the seller? How do we, if the home doesn't appraise, how do we get the seller to pay for that? If the seller refuses to move out, what do we do? If the home burns down, what do we do? If the seller dies, what do we do? All of these things I have encountered in my 20 years and 1,500 home sales. So we've got you covered when it comes to something like that. The end goal of working with a professional is you get the best terms. You get the home for a lot lower. You win the negotiations and it's stress-free. So you got to figure out which way you want to approach it. And when you have somebody like my organization, you'll never be waiting to hear back if you can get into a home. Click of a button, you get into a home same day. I hope this video helps and answers some of those questions of why the heck am I signing forms? But that's something you're going to have to do no matter what. So pick who you're choosing wisely. Pick the right professional. And here's the thing with us, all of our agreements, you can cancel anytime. If we don't earn your business, fire us. You got to sign something and start somewhere. Call us, email us, respond on YouTube. We'd love to work with you and help you get into that dream home. Thanks for watching. Dave Z with the eXp Realty and the Dave Z Home Team.